Welcome to
What a block!
Triple Blockheads,
Back set, block down.
the podcast for all things volleyball.
Blockhead!
Aloha and welcome to another episode of Triple Blockheads. I am Makani. I'm here with Frank and Mark, and we are going to dive into a topic that I've been looking forward to, honestly, because there's just so much confusion on this thing. Double contacts. Is it even a thing? So we'll dive into this. We'll really kind of focus initially around like where have we been and where are we now and why are we doing it this way? But I think we have an interesting perspective with the three of us because, it's changing in different levels and there's some inconsistency between the two. And I think it's going to be awesome to kind of hear everyone's perspective on how it's changed the actual game at the collegiate level and how we're viewing setters. And then what should clubs start thinking about as we are looking forward in prospects moving into that level. But Mark, what are you seeing, and what are you hearing relative to just this change in general?
I think first, for those who don't know, right, there's double contacts as long as you are setting to another one of your players is allowed at the collegiate level. Now, if you set that ball over the net and the opponent touches it, then double contacts are back in play. So that is the new rule interp as of this year. The motivation kind of that led us to this point where as volleyball becomes more televised and gains more and more viewership, that was always an area of confusion between viewers and what actually is going on, right? It's a pretty niche, minute kind of change in a set and how it's released that causes that double contact that makes the ball spin differently. And the big thing was the officiating of it was so inconsistent, right? We had officials that just wouldn't call them. Then we had some that were super strict. So that's confusing for a viewer as well, where one match I turn on and they're calling all these doubles, and the next match I turn on and they're not calling anything. That doesn't help educate that viewership. That's kind of what spurred the initial change. Now that we're in it and we're in this new world of no doubles, the thing that I'm seeing most is an increased confidence for all your non-setters. You know what I mean? So it really hasn't changed the setter position at the college level very much, but it does give that middle confidence to step in and set that ball, knowing that the consequences are low now, right? Risk factors have decreased significantly. So what entail that has turned into is more attacks, longer rallies, right? Plays that would be called dead. Either the middle's not going to take it or whoever's not going to set that ball because they're scared that they're going to double it, and then inevitably they do and point for the other team. Or that setter would have to sprint and try and get a platform on it when that player doesn't want to take that second ball. So now we're seeing a lot more confidence from those non-setters to just step in and take second and put up a ball, regardless of double, right? So then location becomes the most paramount thing that we're trying to train. So everybody's doing setting reps now. Can we locate that ball, even if it's not clean, right? We're still training setters the same way we've been training setters, right? Nothing has changed. It's not advantageous to double a volleyball in terms of a hittable set. You know what I mean? So that hasn't changed. Maybe there's an emphasis on getting your hands on more balls, but from an overall just how it's affecting the game is it's made players a lot more confident to go make athletic plays, which I think is a benefit to collegiate volleyball.
Mm-hmm.
You think it's here to stay?
I think it is. I think the impact it's having on flow of the game, right? Less dead balls, longer rallies equal more entertaining volleyball. And if the viewership continues to stay, basically if you give people a reason to change the channel, they're going to. So if those rallies can continue, if they're not confused by the rule anymore, they're going to stay and watch the product, which is better, right? And I think to that note, you're seeing a lot more parity in college volleyball. Part of that is the overall level of collegiate athlete is better across the board. So there's not these extremes of highs and lows of haves, have-nots. Like, it's just good volleyball. And now you throw something that was such a specialized skill, that setting, right? And you take out that double piece. Now everybody is making plays. They're extending plays. Rallies are getting longer. Bigger teams with bigger arms that were more specialized are not getting the same advantage that they were because people can step in and mangle that second ball. So I think it is directly impacting the game at the college level, probably more than we're thinking about. But you've seen a ton of upsets, a ton of parity this year. I'm going to contribute some of that to the double or the lack of the double.
Do you think that advantage is more on certain types of teams than others? Whether it be, hey, a team that's a little more scrappy that in the past would have a setter platform setting a ball with something that's a little more out of system, now to, hey, I'm scrappy, I can have someone step in and get an out of system ball, but with location at that point.
Probably yes and no. I think it does benefit probably the scrappy team over the less scrappy, but ultimately you're going to get an out-of-system ball out of that unless you're really working with whoever's going to take that second ball. I think where you have seen the biggest change is like a dig or a ball, a pass that goes to like zone 4, right? If we pass to zone 4, that is usually just dead zone, right? Nobody's getting there. Nobody's going to touch it and put up a set. That outside hitter's already transitioned off. What I'm seeing now is that ball is kept alive by the middle, who steps in, right? Maybe they just slide over and take it with 2 hands and just put up a ball. A ball. Doesn't have to be great, but if the alternative is an ace or a kill for the opponent, this is a beneficial play for that team.
Well, I know some high school conferences where they don't call doubles, and they've been doing that for like 10 years. That's pretty exciting volleyball. Well, so run a club, obviously, and we're still getting doubles called on us this upcoming year. So it is interesting to hear that you think it's going to stick around for a while, and when and if and like should it go into the club game. And I think there's probably conversations about all 3 of those. Like, I think if it does, I think you'll see like potentially taller setters starting to play more of the setting position at younger ages, and maybe that isn't something that we'll notice for another like 5-6 years when those kids get older. And I don't know if it should go into the club game. I know we want to keep the game similar to what they're going to do into college, but is there something to be said about the development of actual setters because of it in the club game, and does that actually bring in setters into the college game being a little less skilled because during club they got kind of saved a bunch of times? I think there's something to be said about a setter for their whole club journey to have to learn how to set out a system, not get bailed out so many times.
Not to backtrack a little bit, but I think the big question is the if. Like, let's not pretend that USA volleyball and international rules have really been aligned with the collegiate rule set. Yeah. And even high school is different from those sanctioning bodies. So it's not like rule uniformity is something that we've seen across volleyball for a while. So I don't know that it would necessarily, especially the way club is tied to USA volleyball, which is much closer to international rules, which I think doubles should be involved in international ball, right? That's that next step up. And if I'm watching Bundesliga on YouTube on a Wednesday afternoon, I probably know what a double is and what a double isn't, and can watch that match from an educated viewer perspective.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But I do think, though, I mean, you make a really good point, right? Because I think it's just about understanding and being really, I guess, authentic with it is or it's not. But at the same time, club is also club tying to international USA volleyball, but club also being a feeder to college creates this weird dynamic, I think, in that space where how can you develop a setter to make sure that they're prepared for the next level. But maybe that change of the double has nothing to do with the actual setter themselves.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be some confusion because the double rule it's been people know about it now. Parents know about it. The casual volleyball fan who maybe has a kid that's playing has probably been watching at least a couple college matches with their kids, and that's probably been a topic of conversation within broadcasts. And I think you're going to have some parents go into club tournaments being like, no, wait, there's no more double rule. And there's going to be potentially even some coaches who just don't know the difference, protesting matches because they think the double rule isn't in effect during club. I do think both governing bodies, you got USA Volleyball, you've got AAU, you got JVA, everyone has issues with finding refs. And like, who's going to be the next refs that come up into the system so that we can keep running tournaments and we have things to play in. And I think eliminating the double call in the club system does bring maybe a little bit more comfortability with the refs coming into the system, wanting to maybe help, because that's probably the one thing that causes the most stress amongst the refs, for sure.
I think you're right. The value statements for collegiate ball is totally different than the value statement.
Yeah, the motivation is not the same.
Completely
at all.
different.
Yeah.
But I think they both still lead to the same result, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
If the goal is to, from the club perspective, is to make sure we're still fostering officials and that is still going, I think that's an important aspect, because those club officials get international certifications. They ref college, right? And now they're used to operating off some different officiating ruling systems. But as you can limit the subjective, right, options for them, things they have to decide, right?
Judgment.
Judgment calls versus what is and what isn't.
Yep.
That's beneficial, right? We're taking some of that risk pressure off of those officials. I 100% agree. I think that would be a motivating factor for getting more officials into the game and ultimately getting yelled at a little bit less.
Yeah.
If we can eliminate the double conversation, that's probably a little less
Now you're just
frustration from the
You're
crowd.
just dealing with a back row attack judgment, and that's probably it. a couple in-out calls.
The lift is the next one.
The lift is going to be the next one, I
That's-
guess.
that needs some tweaking for sure. But
Yeah, I would agree. But I think even though when we go from the club, let's just say that the rules are different as they sit today, and then we're in this current reality, I still think that as a club who is a feeder for collegiate teams and programs, there are things that you could change and insert into your development plan to help prepare athletes, whatever maybe. And again, as I mentioned, like, I think it's really more non-setters, giving them more reps with that setting skill set, right? And understanding where and how to deliver a ball from non-conventional in-system places. To your point, in zone 4, right? Or hey, I'm stacked and I'm not even passing. I'm in the corner in 1, and all of a sudden I get past there. I can step in and I can set the ball outside. That's an easier set for that kid that's standing in 1 than my setter coming backwards trying to deliver a ball. So I think giving them more reps. I think the other thing too is around just get a touch on a ball, right? And yeah, getting a ball in system is the intent, but the more balls you just get up, somebody else is around, or maybe it just changes. Like, I can get a ball to somebody who can then deliver a ball in a different way, right?
Yeah, I think on the club side, if doubles becomes a thing on the club side where anyone can set a ball, same ruling as college, I think it won't change a lot of the training, the all skills idea of a club, because I think in club we are trying to train all skills, so everyone does do some setting of volleyballs. We want to learn how to create a swing. I think that's all beneficial things that should happen in a learning club environment. But yeah, when you start getting into reps of like system training, system setters, like who's going to be a setter, I think you will start seeing taller kids who maybe would have been pegged as middles early on. You're starting to see maybe they're going to turn into a setter because we can work through in tournament play. We can work through the mishandling of volleyballs and not get punished for it. Our team won't suffer because of it. And now we can kind of let that tall kid maybe develop into this potential setter, or the really fast kid who maybe has the same issue of maybe not great hands yet, but there's no doubles being called. So let's let her develop and kind of capitalize on this secondary skill she has, whether it's height or speed or whatever it may be.
I think that's a really interesting perspective to have, like this call, right, this double, is directly impacting who you decide can be a setter at a certain age, right? Either you have the gift of the golden hands or you don't and you're tall, so you're a middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's probably an unintended side effect of different rules of volleyball, right? That probably become limiting factors or barriers for some players to be in certain positions, which is an interesting thought concept. Like, what are the other things that you can take away that make it more inclusive for people to be able to do cross-position training through a longer perspective, which probably is a different podcast conversation. But I think that's an interesting perspective, and I think it's accurate. I think you'll see as this continues to go, and if club does move to that, you're going to see bigger, younger, right? Your tall kids or your best athletes at 11s are going to become setters now, as opposed to middles or pins or whatever it is.
We might not have any middles left.
Well, I was going to say,
There's
because
already a middle shortage.
Well, and part of that middle, there really is.
Maybe you just set from the middle. Maybe you just set from the middle.
Go full system changes. We'll see that.
Well, that's another conversation to potentially have. Is like, does this evolve into system changes, where you have multiple different setting roles out there?
That is interesting, and I'm thinking more into the middle system, like setting from the middle of the court. Then you could have a right-handed or left-handed setter. Always setting from the middle, they could just have their attack arm on the outside regardless. So if I'm a right-handed setter and I set from the middle, I might face the right side and back set to the go or back set to the middle so I can turn and swing on different stuff. You know what I mean? That's an interesting
Someone's going to try
concept.
it.
Someone
Someone's going to try it.
I'm still waiting for somebody to go all lefty
All reverse,
team
all
and
reverse.
flip
I wish.
everything.
I wish.
Like,
I think, well, and honestly, the middle from the middle setting from the middle of the court, we see some men's teams, especially secondary hands are in the middle, right? They're passing middle as a setter, and their secondary hands is their middle, like, for that exact reason. They're standing in the middle of the court. They can go both ways. They're tall enough. If you set the ball, if that ball's tight anyway, they're gonna take it.
Right.
So, and I'll be honest, I've seen a collegiate women's team do the same thing, just because they felt it was on the net, is they were able to get a better swing because that pass was on the net. It was more normal for their pins to swing a ball in that from that angle. But I think you made a really good point around middle shortage, because it's some club can be, because it's that feeder, and I think parents even more so believe that's the why, right? Because it's the feeder, that you saw college volleyball turn to big pins, and
just
now
big. Period.
Right.
Like, height is an all-time premium right now.
Exactly. So now you went away from, hey, you're the 6'4", 11-year-old, and you're stuck in the middle, to that. Many times they're throwing them on the outside for this, because people are seeing that's what's happening at the next level.
Yep.
So you wonder, right, is like, as things change and as programs get more sophisticated, maybe something new comes up, does that change how you identify?
Yeah, for sure. With the double being called going over the net for you guys, is that an advantage? The ball spinning over the net?
Absolutely.
I mean, is it not more exciting though to see someone just jump and just mangle the thing and like try and dunk it? I mean, that's entertaining too, right?
No, as a coach, it's not entertaining. It's infuriating. The fact that it still exists, and I do believe that's one of the ways that you can gain a distinct advantage is by taking a ball two hands and sending it over, right? Location precision, especially on what would be a free ball situation. Now you're able to place this ball exactly where you want to. You got to be able to do that clean, right? There's a level of expertise. If you're going to gain this advantage, you got to be able to do it without doubling that ball, because what we are seeing now are pins that instead of would take one hand into a ball and swipe off the block, now they're taking two hands and just throwing it into a block. 9 times out of 10, that's a double, right? Very rarely are they setting a clean ball into the blocker's arm. And the other thing that happens is just going up and attacking two-hand stuff on that third contact. Well, if you're just whipping hands at it, right, you're going to get an advantage that you shouldn't have. But the bigger thing is, like, because we know this is the only way we can get a double called, coaches are hyper aware that this is the situation. So if that ball comes off even remotely unclean, all those pent up wanting to call a double and throw up two fingers, like, they finally just come gushing out, right? That's a double. That's a double. He went over the net's a double.
Are any of those being, like, judged as blocking attempts?
So it has to be primary first contact, which no double contact on anyway. So no.
No, I mean the attacker who is sending it over on two, if it's close to the net, can you argue that it's a block attempt?
Not if if it's coming from your side, no. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
It would have to be an overpass, which at that point,
Got it.
You can mangle that any which way anyway. So it's all fair game.
Okay, got it.
I think maybe just to level set, to talk about the contacts and the difference in the contacts. So first contact on your side versus a first contact over the net, right? I mean,
well, those are essentially the same now, right? First contact on my side versus first contact ball coming over the net. You can double it. You can basically do anything except catch and throw it. And even sometimes you can catch and throw it. You know what I mean? Depending on who you got, you might be able to catch and throw.
Judgment.
Yeah, right? Another one of those judgment calls. So first contact, nothing changed. Second contact, I would argue still nothing really has changed. Like, from a setter position specifically, that's the same, right? Again, it's not advantageous to double a ball. It's usually not a better set. So we're still training setters exactly that same way, but increased confidence outside of that setter position, stepping in and taking a ball. And then third contact stuff, we're starting to see people trying to use that as to their advantage. And the officiating is somewhere in between. Sometimes I think they're on it. Sometimes I don't. Coaches are going to let them know regardless whether they're on it or not. They'll probably, because I think it's hard to untrain yourself from 15 years of being like, oh, that was a double, to like, oh, doubles don't exist anymore. Never mind. You know what I mean? So the reactions are big still.
Yeah.
I think while it's changed, I'll be honest, like watching collegiate volleyball, to your point, I don't see any difference in the quality of that second contact from the setter position specifically, right? And I think that's important for all of the viewers and fans and others to know, like, that expectation from a coach perspective is the same, because you need that control to run an effective offense. If you don't, you know, we're talking like the point something % of balls that they set in live play that would have been a double that aren't.
Yeah.
And that's really all that was. It's really, to your point, it's all the other stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It previously was a limiting factor for everyone else, not so much about setters. We weren't worried as much about setters doubling as much as everyone else who's going to step in and take that ball. And now it's not, right? The fear's gone. So there's been a lot of positive things coming out of it from what I'm seeing.
Unfortunately, the official can't step in and can't say, hey, second contact, the middle puts their hand up and the whistle's blowing before they actually touch the ball.
I was guilty of that as well. I would yell double before they even said it. Like it's coming into their hands like, it's got to be a double.
Yeah.
That's a double for sure.
And then it comes out clean 1 out of 10 times. And you're like, okay, that was good. Yeah.
So all in all, like it?
I do. I think it has improved the collegiate game right now as a whole. I'm interested to see in a couple years what it looks like. I think the trickle down is what is going to be interesting, right? A rule change that was made at the collegiate level for a TV viewership purpose, right, over everything else, is going to affect how and when people are decided that they're going to be setters at the club level in 5 years and who that is relative to who it is now. I think that is an interesting take on how rules affect future generations of training. Future generations is a stretch. Like this is a much sooner than a future generation thing, but still an interesting perspective.
Yeah, and I think there's still going to be a little bit of education that has to happen this year because of how well popularized this new rule is at the college level. So I think there's going to be some of that right away. And like it could impact the way we set kids up on teams and who's going to be our setters and how we specialize training for setters and outside of the all skills idea. And I hope if it does happen that all the governing bodies decide to do it at the same time so that we don't have USAV events that are not calling doubles and then we have JV events that are calling doubles, and because that would cause some confusion for sure. But
just to be clear though, like, and we talked a lot about the fact that that setter role and how you develop a setter is not going to be different. But so when you say identifying setters, just for the viewers, it's the fact that in my opinion, it's the fact that you have a runway for their development, because you're not going to be called those doubles.
Yep.
And it's not because because they're a little bigger, and taller and more physical, that now there's a double, now they can do that all the time. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that, hey, we can develop them, they can succeed on the court in active competition and not feel like they're being just knocked down every single time because of the fact that the game is stopping every time they touch the ball.
Yeah, like how many total attempts do you think a setter gets in a set? If they get 10, if they get at least 10 assists, they're probably getting at least 25 touches on the ball
30
per set.
Probably more than that.
Way more than that.
Yeah, so
35, 40.
If you
have 10 kills,
300.
Yeah.
And that's with doubles.
Kills.
That's like with doubles being called, right? So that's a ton of tournament reps that a kid could gain from setting.
Yeah.
Per set.
I just wanted to make sure I clarified that, because I think that you can interpret it two different ways, right? And it's just the development part of it that gives them really a lot of time to do so.
Yeah, I think along with that, until the rule changes, if and when at that club level, I do think it's advantageous for clubs to do college rules type drills. Like, all right, this one, no doubles, and I want this person to take second contact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just put them in those situations and get them exposed to it now without the fear, and then maybe you find out that they actually have pretty decent hands and can step in, and now we're into a different situation.
Totally agree.
In match, but look for opportunities to allow for that exploration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally agree.
So when your coaches walk into the first club tournament this year, you're gonna go and buy them branded "The Double Still Exists" shirts as you walk into the convention center.
So the big two.
Just a two. No, that should be in the back.
I'm gonna buy him 2 chains.
2 chains.
I think it would be probably more beneficial to give every official a patch, a double, like a peace sign double patch, and if you wear that, I call doubles, and if you don't call doubles, and then we just know ahead of the match. Is he wearing the doubles patch? All right, we're gonna libero, you're going to take second contact. You know what I mean? Oh, no doubles patch. All right, middle, take this second contact and see what you can do.
That's fantastic. I mean, to your point, though, I mean, parents and fans, they are going to be confused.
Yeah, for
they
sure.
really are.
They will be.
They're going to be confused. But great conversation. One of those things where I think that as rules continue to change, like the trickle-down effect is so interesting. So I'm sure we'll pick this up, especially when we get closer and deeper into the club season to see what you are actually seeing. And are officials changing when they're really when they didn't realize they were not changing yet, which I guarantee is going to be some of the case.
Yeah, I wonder if a ref did come up to me and they're like, I'm going to follow the college rules. I wonder if I could protest that.
Yes.
Yeah, because like
you could, because that's not the
rules.
Those aren't the
but
rules.
But what if he just says, I don't call doubles?
Well, that's his choice. Now he's just using his judgment.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Right. That's the judgment call perspective. Is like that's basically what's happening now anyways.
Anyway.
So
I wonder if I could protest and say that he's following the college rules if he doesn't call doubles. It's opening up a can of worms here.
So in a future episode of Triple Blockheads, we're going to talk about the protest process.
yeah. We'll talk about all of Frank's unsuccessful protests.
All the unsuccessful protests about the double call.
I'm probably like a little bit below 500.
I can safely say I've never protested a call.
It's fun. You should try it. So. With that being said, another great episode of Triple Blockheads. Find us on social at Triple Blockheads. We're gonna keep it light and keep some of these topics and change topics coming. So stay tuned. With that, we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Blockheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Triple Blockheads. Make sure you like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss an episode.